In every major league sport, when it comes to a contract season, we see a phenomenon. That is, every single player all of a sudden has a fire under their butt and they want to earn that big payday. And so suddenly we see a massive spike in their production as they want to secure their future, so being on idle just isn't an option. And this spike can be tied to many factors, including nutrition, training, and of course motivation. But the fact that teams bet on a player coming off a career year, well, that can lead to an extremely high risk signing, which can single-handedly break the back of a team's cap situation for years. So today's video, we're going to go over those players who turned up for their contract year and then, well, they fell off production-wise. So comment down below your team's worst free agency signing, I'd love to know. And you guys may or may not have noticed, I actually got a studio microphone. So hopefully this improves the quality. I'm still trying to figure out the settings, but hopefully you appreciate it. But anyways guys, press subscribe for some more awesome content. Let's get straight into this video. We will start with the infamous David Clarkson, who had a ridiculous fall from grace after earning his payday in Toronto. As Clarkson leading up to the 2013 free agency was a decent secondary scorer, but I wouldn't consider him to be anything more than that third line scorer. Well, that is until 2012, where Clarkson went from scoring 18 points to scoring 30 goals, which really put him on the map. And the next season during the lockout, Clarkson would follow up his 30-goal campaign with the respectable 15 goals, 24 points in 48 games. On top of having a very gritty game, which of course was very attractive to have a guy who can fight, hit, and score goals. And so Clarkson's sudden siege and goal production really piqued the interest of the Toronto Maple Leafs, where he would sign a ridiculous contract worth $36.75 million over the next 7 years, which was honestly just insane. Especially considering that he really only had one star season out of his entire career, and other than that, he was just a grinder. But if he could bring that production alongside of his grit, it would be worth every penny. However, the season after hitting the lotto, Clarkson would go from a 30-goal scorer to scoring 5 goals. 5. The next season he would score 10, he got a substantial injury and was actually forced into early retirement, but Clarkson is really the epitome of getting hot at the perfect timing, because he would be about $30 million less rich if it wasn't for him getting hot in 2012. Next, we have Sergei Bobrovsky, as we saw Bob this past offseason sign one of the biggest goalie contracts in NHL history, as he signed a 7-year, $70 million contract, and this contract from day one was very suspect. But hey, if you're getting a world-class 2-time Vezina winner, it may be worth every penny to secure your goaltending for at least the next 5 years. And considering that Florida is a very good up-and-coming team, well, I guess they thought they needed that backbone in net. However, what we saw this season was probably worse than any worst-case scenario the Florida Panthers could have ever predicted, as Bobrovsky is having the worst season in his entire career. As this season, Bobrovsky has put up a career-low 900 save percentage and an atrocious 3.23 goals against average. And to put it into perspective, in terms of a number 1 starting goaltender, Bobrovsky analytically is one of the worst goalies in the entire NHL, who just so happens to be making $10 million per season this year on a new team. And considering that Bob had a great year last year and a tremendous playoffs, I do expect him to bounce back. Especially because he has basically hit rock bottom in terms of analytics. So hopefully he does, because when he does, Florida is going to be a great team. Next, we have Andrew Ladd. And Ladd was a great leader who could be a foundational piece on any given team. He had 2 Stanley Cups and was consistently producing around the 60+ point range in the 6 years leading up to his payday, where he would sign a monster 7-year, $38.5 million deal. And with the Islanders, Andrew Ladd would go from a consistent 60-point scorer to putting up 31 points, and then 29 points, and then finally 11 points in 2019, where he was also only averaging around 13 minutes played per game in those 26 games that season. Now, Ladd, like other players on this list, may be a victim of circumstance, being on a new team, not able to find that instant success. But it's crazy to think that Ladd, after signing his big payday, went from a very sought-upon leader to at best a third-line scorer. Next, we have Jacob Trouba. And this one was suspect from the very beginning, Because on June 17th, 2019, Trouba would be involved in a blockbuster deal that sent him to the New York Rangers, and the Jets in return would get a 2019 first-round pick that turned out to be Ville Heinola, who was a blue-chip defensive prospect, and Neil Pionk, who had a breakout season this year, and to everyone's surprise, analytically was a better defenseman than Jacob Trouba. But what makes the situation even worse is that Trouba, before getting traded, was having the best season of his career. Defensively, he kind of simmered down, but he put up 50 points and had a proven physical shutdown ability. So all these factors, and the fact that Jacob Trouba was only 25, so just entering his prime, well, it added up to a whopping $64 million contract, which is far more than I expected and basically everyone else. But when you do consider that Trouba has the chance to flourish into a top 2 defender, well, then that kind of makes sense. But there still was a lot of risk. And unfortunately for the New York Rangers, Trouba has done the opposite, as he is not only having the worst offensive year of his career with 27 points, but he's also having the worst defensive season in his entire career. And Trouba is still young and he will bounce back, especially because this is rock bottom, but this contract only being 1 year old has aged horribly. Next, we have a Canucks legend, Louis Erickson. Signed by Vancouver in 2016, Erickson, alongside of many other free agents, saw the most ludicrous signings, as teams were just shoveling out money to aging veterans who were showing regression. And well, Louis Erickson was exactly that. Because the 3 years heading into his contract year, he was showing constant regression, as he went from a premier scorer who put up 71 points to getting traded for Tyler Seguin and then putting up 47 points in 2015. And so what do you know? In his contract year, Louis would once again up his tempo and go from 47 points to 30 goals and 63 points, which would ultimately earn him a 6x6 contract, as Jim Benning gave him $36 million on a rebuilding team. There was an assumption that Erickson would spark a Sedin line, as they did play together during international tournaments, but that never happened. In fact, Louis has yet to even pass 30 points in Vancouver and has put up a dismal 13 points this season. And although Erickson has actually been pretty solid in a bottom 6 role, Erickson's contract has aged horrendously, especially because he's making 6 sheets per year. And we will end with Justin Falk. And Falk's case was a bit different, because not only did he sign a very safe but lucrative 6-year, $29 million deal, but he was also acquired for a blue chip prospect in Dominic Bach and a solid top 6 defender in Joel Edmondson. In this season, Falk has seen some pretty significant regression, as he offensively is having the worst year in his entire career, and defensively he has really suffered, which is pretty interesting considering that he is on the St. Louis Blues, who are a top defensive team in the entire NHL. But with that being said, like everyone else, Falk can bounce back. But with 16 points in 69 games, combine that with a very spotty defensive game, well, that's pretty bad. And considering that he had a very consistent career up until this point, where he produced north of 40 points per season and was very responsible in his own end, Justin Falk this year has been pretty surprising. And considering that Falk is taking up very valuable cap space that would be used to sign Alex Pietrangelo, well, that's pretty rough. But anyways guys, what is the worst free agency signing that you can think of? And press subscribe for some more awesome hockey content. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the new audio. Obviously I don't really know what it's going to sound like until I get it into Premiere and start editing with it, but I'm pretty pumped, so hopefully you guys appreciate the upgrade. I'm going to message the jersey winner sometime this week, so stay tuned for that. But anyways guys, hope you guys are doing well. See you guys later.